Hey everyone, welcome to your Universe Z, the place where we talk all about the Dragon Ball universe. Today we are going to go through the true first time Beerus appeared in Dragon Ball. And if you would like to see more Dragon Ball content, please leave your like and subscribe to join our Universe Z. Beerus is a character who has become extremely famous in Dragon Ball, not only for his distinctive appearance or difficult to handle personality, but especially for his powers and his influence within the story. Influence that is good or bad, depending on the situation. In fact, if we consider his role within Dragon Ball, a god of destruction certainly doesn't do really good things. Even more when we take into account his difficult personality that makes him act without thinking straight, destroying things and people just because they made him angry. This is something we see from his introduction as a character to later revelations, where we find out that Beerus was involved in grand situations like the destruction of planet Vegeta and possibly other even more mysterious things. Did you know about this? In today's video we are going to talk about Beerus' actions with the planet Vegeta, remembering a bit about how this place played out until its destruction, and how it is possible that this troublesome god of destruction may have caused, and even be deeply involved in, other things in the story. The planet Vegeta, formerly known as Planet Planta, was the home planet of Goku, Vegeta, and all the other native Saiyans, Tuffles, and the inhabitants of Planta in the Dragon Ball franchise. In Dragon Ball GT, Baby wishes Ultimate Shenlong to have the planet Vegeta restored to the Earth solar system. Upon being restored, Baby renames the planet Tuffle, also known as New Planet Planta or the Planet Tuffle. In Universe 6 it also exists under the name Planet Tuffle. Planet Vegeta was not the native planet of the Saiyans, but Planet Sadala was, and they only moved to Planet Vegeta after Sadala's destruction. Planet Vegeta is only seen briefly in the anime and manga, and is known to possess at least 10 times the gravity of planet Earth. This intense gravity allows the Saiyans to gain and develop their natural physical resilience and power. The Tuffles, the other race on Planet Vegeta, seem to have evolved along different lines by having smaller bodies so that gravity affects them less. Planet Vegeta appeared to have been in ruins for about 100 years before Vegeta and Nappa landed on Earth. The planet Vegeta was later home to two races, the Tuffles and the Saiyans. The Tuffles were a diminutive race, native to the planet Planta, who lacked physical strength and stamina, but were very intelligent and skilled with technology. In contrast, the Saiyans were of average size, but very strong and fierce. Despite their incredible powers, the Saiyans were primitive, backward, and lived in small clans scattered across the deserts of the planet Plant. Their life was peaceful, until suddenly, around the age of 720, the Saiyans decided to launch a full-scale war against the Tuffs. What started the war is debatable. According to Vegeta, the Saiyans were treated as inferior beings by the Tuffles and forced to live in harsh conditions, which forced them to rebel against them. Baby, however, argued that the Tuffles were a peaceful race and that the Saiyans launched an unprovoked attack against. Both versions of the story are probably biased, but in both cases, led by King Vegeta, the Saiyans declared war on the Tuffles, starting a conflict known as the Saiyan-Tuffle War. According to King Kai, King Vegeta started the war against the Tuffles so that he could dominate the planet. The Saiyans were giants compared to the Tuffles, but due to the latter's technology, they were able to keep the war at a standstill. Then, around 730, something happened that gave the Saiyans the upper hand. Full moon appeared, something that only happened once every 8 years, and the Saiyans gained the ability to transform into great apes. In their new forms, they defeated them, easily obliterating the Tuffles, and ruled the planet, renaming it Planet Vegeta, in honor of their king. Soon, around 730, the Saiyans are discovered by the Arcosians and King Cold in 731. Saiyans served under King Frio and the Planetary Trade Organization until Frio retired in 732 and handed the reins of power over to his son Freeza. He discovered that the Saiyans were strong and loved to fight, so he began employing them to destroy entire races and dominate their planets to fulfill Frieza's dream of ruling the entire universe. Planet Vegeta was soon turned into a military base, with many of Frieza's men stationed there alongside the Saiyans. Young Saiyans with low battle powers were sent to other planets to exterminate the inhabitants, making the planet fit to be sold. The Saiyans increased their strength rapidly, and by 735, Frieza was worried that they would eventually rise up and overthrow him. While Frieza had little fear of lone Saiyans, their power in numbers was evident. Too proud to admit it, he also harbored a secret fear of the legendary Super Saiyan, which he believed was not just a fable. Frieza's henchmen, Zarbon and Dodoria, suggested that it would be wise for him to finish off the Saiyans before their power got out of control. Some Saiyans, including King Vegeta, learned of Frieza's plan and began plotting against him. Saiyan warrior Bardock survived an ambush that killed his entire task force and swore revenge against his treacherous master. They attacked Frieza, but his strength was overwhelming and he defeated them easily. To rid himself of the Saiyan threat forever, he destroyed the planet along with almost all the Saiyans, the only survivors being Raditz, Nappa, Prince Vegeta, Tarbell, Goku, Broly, Paragus and 2 other unknown Saiyans. the destruction of planet Vegeta looks a little different between the manga and the anime. In the anime, Freeza destroys the planet with a supernova. In the manga, Freeza simply states that he attacked the planet. Also, Raditz claims that Vegeta's planet was destroyed by an asteroid 3 years before his arrival in his big speech explaining Goku's story before Goku came to Earth, which is the story Freeza spread to keep the remaining Saiyans from turning against him. Vegeta is told the same account right after the planet is destroyed. Later, when Goku Super Saiyan confronts Freeza in Namekusei, he says that the Saiyans were destroyed because they killed innocent people, while Freeza comments that he destroyed them because he didn't like them. In the Dragon Ball manga and its movie adaptation in Dragon Ball Super, Broly, in addition to his fears of the Super Saiyan appearing being one of his reasons for the genocide of the Saiyans, Freeza also considered the possibility of one of them becoming a Super Saiyan god, a legend that not even Prince Vegeta knew about. Thus, in the manga and movie, he destroyed the planet out of fear of the Super Saiyan and the Super Saiyan god, both of which were later realized by Goku and Vegeta, who obtained both forms. In an anime filler, King Kai states that the planet Vegeta also had a guardian who, upset at the horrible behavior of the Saiyans, decided to kill the Saiyans with a meteor shower. Later, the manga states that the meteor Raditz talked about was just a cover-up of Frieza's genocide of the Saiyan race, and the anime followed suit. Dodoria finally confirms that Freeza was responsible for the destruction of planet Vegeta when he explains the truth about the end of the planet to the prince. This is something quite important to point out here because there is some evidence that Beerus was involved in the destruction of planet Vegeta. In Resurrection F and Dragon Ball Super, it is revealed that the god of destruction had a role in the destruction of planet Vegeta when he asked Freeza to destroy it due to his dislike of King Vegeta for being petty. Here, we should note that Freeza had his own reasons for destroying the planet and the Saiyans, although Freeza probably took Beerus' request into consideration when he decided to destroy it. Ironically, this somewhat matches King Kai's story of a god destroying the planet due to being disgusted with the Saiyans' behavior, with the only difference being that Beerus is a god of destruction rather than a guardian and destroyed the planet by proxy through Freeza acting as his agent. These similarities imply that King Kai may be aware of Beerus' role in his destruction or at least suspect it. With the revelation of Beerus' role, it is possible that King Kai was telling Goku the truth in his retelling of the history of planet Vegeta, since he had been truthful about the Saiyan Tuffle War and was right about a god being involved in the destruction of the planet, although he probably lied to avoid mentioning any of them to Goku, as he was fully aware of the dangers Goku would face if he challenged any of them, and this would fit in with King Kai's attempts later in the series to dissuade Goku from fighting any of them. This pointing of the piece regarding Beerus becomes even more interesting when we consider that the god was probably involved in more situations in the timeline of the entire Dragon Ball franchise that we are not even aware of yet. It is possible that he was responsible, partially or not, for more absurd cases that we have only heard about or seen from a certain point of view. But in what other situations could Beerus have been involved? When would his first official action within the timeline of history have been? Well, we must first remember that gods live a long time. Beerus is certainly much older than the Saiyajin who lived, until then, only 700 and few years, since they were eventually exterminated afterwards. What we can perhaps think about this situation, and considering everything we have seen and know about Beerus, is that this was not the first and not the last time he decided to destroy something just because he didn't like it. After all, we know that he is quite hot-headed and can cause a huge mess over small things, like food or the personality of someone or a race, in the case of the Saiyans. That said, and here we are addressing things and events that may have been shown or mentioned in the anime, manga, and even the Dragon Ball games, it is possible that Beerus has also caused destruction, wars, or other conflicts elsewhere because of his terrible personality, or, perhaps, just because he is a god of destruction after all. One way or another, it's almost unlikely that Beerus hasn't caused a similar situation an exorbitant amount of times before and even after the destruction of planet Vegeta, although perhaps it's also possible that this side of him has improved over time. However, nothing becomes concrete until it is said in the words of the canonical anime or manga of the work itself. What about you? Did you know that Beerus had been partially responsible for the destruction of planet Vegeta? Do you think he was responsible for the destruction of other planets throughout history? Do you think he was involved in other bullshit in the work? Leave your opinion about it in the comments. That's it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestions for videos, don't forget to comment here below, because I'll be reading all of them as I always do. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any content from your Universe Z.